Welcome back. In our last video, we went over the top rankings of my favorite amusement park attractions from 50 to 26. I wanted to clump everything together that the theme and amusement park world provides for us, naming my top 50 favorite ones all together. I have ridden over 350 different attractions from around the world, ranging from roller coasters to dark rides and even theatrical shows. Once again, here are the rides and attractions that will not be making the list since I have not had the chance to visit them or visit their park. As I stated in my last video, these are not necessarily what I think is the best attractions, but my own personal favorites. With all that out of the way, let's get back to the list. For number 25, we head up to Canada's Wonderland for an extremely similar roller coaster to number 26 Diamondback, and that is Behemoth. Built the year before Diamondback, Behemoth is the exact same height, but is set partially over a lake, giving an interesting ride experience different from Diamondback's setting through the woods. The main reason I give Behemoth a slight edge over Diamondback is due to the decently forceful helix after the mid-course brake run. B&M's hypercoasters are always a winner and something I get excited to when I visit a park that is lucky enough to have one. It has been 9 years since I last rode Behemoth and hope to get back soon to ride this monster. We're heading back down to Kings Island for number 24 to Diamondback's neighbor, Mystic Timbers. This incredible wooden coaster made by Great Coasters International is an airtime-packed speed machine. It is also incredibly smooth for a wooden roller coaster. Staying low to the ground from every moment past the first drop, this roller coaster never lets up its speed until it hits the final brakes. Being surrounded by the woods just adds that little extra bit of perfection. Kings Island even added some theming at the end of the ride while you wait to head back into the station. You will constantly hear "Do Not Go Into the Shed," which has a unique and kind of bizarre theme where monsters attack you as you head back into the loading station. I appreciate the effort, but I personally feel like this should have been added to the beginning of the attraction instead of the end. Either way, this does not take away from how incredible of a roller coaster this is. For number 23, we stay in Kings Island for the legendary wooden coaster, The Beast. While The Beast is not the best wooden roller coaster I have ridden, Mystic Timbers is objectively a much better roller coaster, there's something special about the world's tallest and longest wooden roller coaster. Stretching an insane 7,361 feet, this dual lift-hilled monster hugs the terrain and speeds through the woods. Opened all the way back up in 1979, this must have really blown away riders back then, and still does even to this day. While I do think if I ever made it onto El Toro or The Voyage, they would dethrone the Beast, there's something special about how this ride speeds through the backwoods of Kings Island. To make this ride even more special, you must ride the Beast after the sun goes down. Racing in the dark with no lights around you other than the fireflies lighting the way is one of my favorite ride experiences I've ever had on any roller coaster anywhere. We hop back to Canada's Wonderland for its B&M Giga Coaster, Leviathan. Standing at a massive 306 feet tall, Leviathan, while similar to Behemoth, delivers a different ride experience. While Behemoth focuses on airtime, Leviathan focuses on speed hills and massive camelbacks to deliver outstanding airtime moments as well. Overall, similar to Orion, I enjoy Leviathan more due to having a little bit more focus on airtime. Between Leviathan and Behemoth, this provides Canada's Wonderland with an amazing 1-2 punch that makes a trip out to Toronto worth it. Number 21 brings us back to Carowinds for Intimidator. This is another excellent B&M hypercoaster like Diamondback and Behemoth, and while you can make an argument that those two are better rides, I still prefer Intimidator for sentimental reasons. This was my first roller coaster to go over 200 feet tall, which at the time felt unreal to have such a massive roller coaster at my home park. This roller coaster also was the first one I rode that really focused on airtime during its layout with its massive camelback hills. Intimidator put the then lackluster Carowinds on the map for something a lot more impressive a few years down the road. But more on that later. I could not get enough of this amazing floater airtime, which is why this is my most ridden coaster at over 250 laps. For number 20, we have our first stage show on the list, which is over at California Adventure with Aladdin, a musical spectacular. Sadly closed down in 2016, this show in the Hyperion Theater was an incredible 45-minute stage show with the budget of a Broadway musical. The actors were always incredible, especially the genie utilizing improv and tying in current events into the show. The stage effects were incredible as well, from having Aladdin and Jasmine flying on the magic carpet above your heads, to having Genie lead the parade to the palace. This was a one-of-a-kind show that makes you forget that you are in a theme park. This was a staple for a visit to California Adventure for over a decade. Closing its doors to make its way for Frozen live at the Hyperion, Frozen just could not fill in the massive footprint left by Aladdin. Frozen closed down in 2020 and had left the Hyperion Theater empty ever since. Disney, please bring back Aladdin. You know it would be a smashing hit that would sell out the Hyperion Theater show after show for years to come. We head right next door to the Hyperion Theater to another incredible dark ride. Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. I will firmly state that this ride is much better with the Guardians of the Galaxy theme compared to Tower of Terror. With the incredible rocket animatronic to having the songs always change each ride, along with the drop profile changing, I will always have a blast while riding this attraction. It is amazing how different this ride feels with the Guardians theme compared to the horror theme of Tower of Terror. I always felt like Mission Breakout felt like one big out-of-control party. Filled with excellent theming and insanely fun drop sequences, Mission Breakout is another smash hit from Walt Disney Imagineering. While I may have preferred California Adventure's Tower of Terror transferring into Mission Breakout, it still does not beat the original Tower of Terror for me. The execution of the original tower is one of the best thrill rides ever built. It is a true masterclass of engineering and showmanship. The additional fifth dimension scene that was cut out of the DCA tower is what elevates the attraction to the next level compared to its California Adventure counterpart. Both Tower of Terror and Mission Breakout are at the top of their game when it comes to presenting the attraction's story, giving tons of lore and background in the pre-show and the environment surrounding you as well. Plus, the Hollywood Studios tower got randomized drop sequences that California Adventure did not get until it turned into Mission Breakout, making this attraction in a league of its own. Tower of Terror will always be one of the most legendary and well-known attractions in the world. Heading back to California Adventure for number 17 and what is one of the most impressive dark rides in the world with arguably the most impressive animatronics in the world is Radiator Springs Racers. Capping off the $1.1 billion renovation of California Adventure, Cars Land and Radiator Springs Racers were the cherry on top from taking California Adventure from the sad and misplaced park at opening to one of the best theme parks in the world. Using the same technology as Test Track, this attraction puts you in the heart of Radiator Springs, seeing some of the most impressive animatronics in the world of any dark ride. The amazing rock work could easily be mistaken for its real-life inspiration out in the American Southwest. The attraction then finishes in an exhilarating race through the canyon. This attraction shows when Disney is on top of their game, it makes for one of the most incredible dark rides on the planet. Number 16 takes us to one of my all-time favorite parks, Disney's Animal Kingdom for Expedition Everest. Expedition Everest is one of the most impressive fully themed roller coasters in the world, giving an incredible and immersive experience. Starting in the attraction's queue, you take in your surroundings as you are transported into Nepal to take a ride on the local tea company that has opened a new train route through the Forbidden Mountain. You arrive to see the track ripped out by the Yeti, where you then enter an impressive backward section of the ride using a switch track where the train then plunges off course backwards in the pitch black. The train then returns to forward position where now the second half of the ride is spent escaping the Yeti. The use of projections and audio adds so much to this attraction as it really does feel like the Yeti is right on top of you. Finally passing by the Yeti itself in what used to be the world's largest animatronic. As most people know, the Yeti only operated for a few months until the massive animatronic started to rip the foundation apart. Hopefully we'll get the Yeti repaired someday, but even without it moving, this is still an impressive sight to behold. As stated before, this is one of the best fully themed roller coasters in the world, and I'm excited to see if that remains top of the list for me once I'm able to ride Hagrid's Motorbike Creature Adventure this upcoming April. Number 15 brings us back to Cedar Point to one of the most iconic roller coasters ever built, Top Thrill Dragster. Once the world's tallest and fastest roller coaster when it opened up in 2003, Top Thrill Dragster is one of the most intense and insane roller coasters ever built. Reaching a staggering height of 420 feet and launching you from 0 to 120 miles an hour in 3.8 seconds, this is one of the most insane experiences you will ever have. While some consider Dragster to be just a one-trick pony, they are not wrong, however it is one hell of a trick. Sadly, Top Thrill Dragster is no longer operating after several reliability issues and some injuries over the years. At the time of this recording, the launch track has been removed, but the main structure remains. Cedar Point has still not addressed what exactly they're going to do to modify the roller coaster, but we hope they make this an even better experience than before when the modified Dragster reopens, which is likely to be in 2024. We head back down to the happiest place on earth for one of its many incredible nighttime spectaculars, Disneyland Forever. Disneyland Forever gives a wonderful blend of what makes Disneyland special along with bringing the characters we all know and love to life. Using state-of-the-art projection mapping technology, similar to Happily Ever After, instead of just making the castle come alive, all of Main Street comes alive as well. Disneyland brought out the big guns to celebrate its 60th anniversary. From animating all the orange groves that dotted Disneyland before it was constructed, to having all the animals from The Lion King marching along the buildings down to Pride Rock was a sight to behold. The creativity of the show to use other objects to tell the story was next level. When you head under the sea anemones grow on the buildings above Main Street to really make you feel like you're underwater. Even for myself, not being a big fan of Frozen, the Let It Go sequence produced artificial snow falling onto the guests below really made this show come to life. Pairing with an incredible finale, this is one of the greatest fireworks shows ever put together and a fantastic way to celebrate Disneyland's Diamond Celebration. Coming in at number 13, we stay at Disneyland for, in my opinion, the best parade that had ever been created, Paint the Night. Also part of Disneyland's 60th anniversary, Walt Disney Imagineers debuted the most spectacular and sensational parade of all time. Containing 1.5 million LED lights, Paint the Night was the successor to the incredibly popular Main Street Electrical Parade. With a combination of the original Electrical Parade's Baroque hoedown with a mix of Owl City's When Can I See You Again, the energy of this parade was unmatched. Each float embraces all of Disney's classic characters in a way that feels so incredibly well crafted. With each float set just as spectacular as the last, these are the most creative float designs I've ever seen. Even the dancers between the floats were just as incredible as the floats themselves. Sadly, Paint the Night has not been at the Disneyland Resort since 2018. I really hope in the not so distant future, Disneyland brings back this incredible parade. Coming in at number 12 is what I consider the fine wine of fireworks shows. Embracing the theme of Epcot's Celebration of the World, Illumination's Reflection of Earth is one of my all-time favorite nighttime spectaculars. This show put a twist to the traditional fireworks show by having the fireworks launch from the barge in the middle of the World Showcase Lagoon. As a result, they were able to launch fireworks that ignited on the water itself, giving an incredibly unique fireworks experience. Remember how I mentioned Soarin' Over California had one of the best theme park soundtracks of all time? Illumination is the king of having a killer soundtrack and is what brought this beautiful and inspiring show together. The show was retired in 2019 and its replacement Harmonious is getting replaced as well. I really wish instead of bringing in a whole new show, Illuminations was revamped with a whole new globe and adding new effects and sections without fireworks, such as using drones. With Harmonious on its way out with an unnamed new fireworks show in the works, let's hope Disney will bring in a similar show to Illuminations to make it feel like a 2.0 version of this masterful nighttime spectacular. Going back to Cedar Point, we head to the back of the park for the incredible Intamin Blitz coaster, Maverick. In the 2000s, when Cedar Point was breaking every record for height and speed, it was a little shocking to see that their coaster to follow up the gigantic Top Thrill Dragster was a 105-foot tall roller coaster that hugged the ground. Maverick proved that height and speed is not everything, as this is one of the wildest rides you'll ever go on. Starting off with a launched lift hill into a 95-degree drop, then with a rapid-fire direction change, it was clear this was not your typical roller coaster. Filled with ejector airtime hills and a launch in the middle of the layout, getting up to 70 miles an hour, this is an all-time classic roller coaster with tons of twists and turns to keep you always guessing where the layout is going to take you to next. Maverick is one of the many incredible roller coasters in Cedar Point's lineup that makes this one of the best parks on the planet. Getting into the top 10, we head back to Disneyland Park for, in my opinion, the greatest fireworks show ever put together. Remember, dreams come true. Disneyland Forever was brought to celebrate Disneyland's 60th anniversary, but 10 years earlier for Disneyland's 50th anniversary, Walt Disney Imagineers put together a show to celebrate the park itself. Taking from Magic Kingdom's popular show Wishes, the first few minutes are stripped right from the show, with the addition of none other than Julie Andrews to narrate the spectacle. However, once Remember Dreams Come True separates from Wishes, is when the show becomes truly spectacular. We then go on a grand circle tour of Disneyland and celebrate all the amazing attractions that led up to the 50th anniversary. Visiting incredible attractions such as the Main Street Electrical Parade, the Tiki Room, and Star Tours, having all these fun themed fireworks made it truly special. However, two sequences in general really elevate the show above all else. When we visit Pirates of the Caribbean, fireworks are launched not only from Sleeping Beauty's castle, but also from the neighboring Matterhorn to illustrate a pirate ship battle in the sky. The other incredible sequence I alluded to was for the Haunted Mansion. Ingeniously designed to make you feel like you're in the middle of the stretching room once again, fireworks in all 360 degrees fire up around you to mimic the stretching room effects. It's effects and creativity like this that makes this fireworks show one of a kind. Number 9 is probably the most sentimental attraction on this list for me, while the attraction itself is also spectacular. Kilimanjaro Safaris at Disney's Animal Kingdom was my home during my college program internship in 2014. As a result, this would be the attraction I had ridden the most since I also drove the vehicles, probably given close to 1,000 trips around the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. In doing this, I've seen the animals do some rare and spectacular things, such as seeing a lion roar right in front of me. Now, sentimental aside, this attraction is extremely impressive on its execution. The way the enclosures are designed to get animal sightings as often as we do takes incredible careful planning. Taking up a footprint larger than the Magic Kingdom or Disneyland, this attraction really takes its time showing you around the incredible African Reserve. Clocking in an impressive 22 minutes, Kilimanjaro Safari is one of the most satisfying attractions you will experience at Walt Disney World. After I've been on a real safari out in Kenya, I have to say the feel and execution Walt Disney Imagineers pulled off is as close as a real thing as you can get into a theme park. When I first started going to Carowinds, it was a good, but when I looked at nationally, it was a forgettable amusement park. That all changed in 2010 when Cedar Fair decided to put an Intimidator into the park and bring a world-class roller coaster. The response from the public was so great after installing the B&M Hypercoaster that 5 years later, Carowinds would open up a roller coaster that I would have thought would only be a dream for me. In March 2015, Fury 325 opened to the public as the world's tallest and fastest roller coaster with a lift hill. Standing a staggering 325 feet tall and reaching speeds of 95 miles an hour, this monolithic coaster truly put Carowinds on the map. Filled with high-speed turns, pops of airtime, and 1,000 feet longer of track than B&M's other giga coasters, Leviathan and Orion, this roller coaster has everything you can ask for. Others seem to agree as Fury 325 has won the Golden Ticket Award for Best Steel Coaster on the planet 6 years in a row. While Carowinds is no longer my home park, I am still in awe that a place I called home for so long got arguably the best coaster on the planet. Number 7 brings us once again to Disneyland for a stage show like no other. We go to the shores of the rivers of America and go into Mickey's dream to see Disneyland's nighttime spectacular Fantasmic. Originally set to only last 5 years, Fantasmic has been so popular that it's still running 30 years later. It is easy to see why this show was so ahead of its time, combining lasers, projections on water, and all while delivering a fantastic story on the stage. Lasting 30 minutes long, we visit many recognizable characters ranging from Dumbo, Beauty and the Beast, and Sleeping Beauty. All building to an incredible climax between Mickey and Maleficent as she transformed into a sight that would leave my jaw on the floor. The moment this 45-foot tall, full-size animatronic dragon is revealed, chills go down your spine as you realize the scale and scope of what you are seeing. Incredible special effects that light the rivers of America on fire right before Mickey triumphantly defeats Maleficent, then heads into an incredible finale where all the effects are turned up to 11. Combined with the incredible soundtrack and all the incredible effects, Fantasmic always leaves me with a massive smile on my face. Fantasmic may also be at Disney's Hollywood Studios, but the original is just one step above. I had not had the chance to return to witness Fantasmic since it had its makeover and changes following the construction of Galaxy's Edge. Regardless, Fantasmic is a must-do for anyone visiting the happiest place on Earth. Number 6 brings us to a dark ride that really elevated Universal to the same level as its fiercest competitor, Disney. When it opened in 2010, it, along with the rest of the wizarding world of Harry Potter, changed the theme park industry for the better. Along with providing incredibly hyper-immersive lands and attractions to its own parks, Disney had to answer to Harry Potter with the equally impressive lands and attractions, with Pandora and Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Not only is the wizarding world of Harry Potter incredibly immersive, but Forbidden Journey fully immerses its riders thanks to the ingenious ride system. Dubbed the Robocoaster, Universal Creative have guests board a flying bench that is attached to a KUKA robotic arm, giving the ride 3 degrees of access to move the guest around. The most brilliant part is how these robotic arms position the bench directly in front of moving screens that effortlessly transition between projections and physical set pieces. Along with the elaborate queue to set up the story and the ride itself, this is one of the most impressive attractions on the list. We head into the top 5 and back to Cedar Point for possibly the wildest roller coaster I've ever ridden, Steel Vengeance. Replacing the ill-fated Mean Streak, Steel Vengeance is an insane roller coaster designed and built by Rocky Mountain Construction. RMC is new on the block, building their first roller coaster in 2011, but have left a monumental impact on the roller coaster industry. In 2018, RMC debuted their craziest and arguably best conversion yet, and opened Steel Vengeance, smashing world records in the process. At a height of 205 feet, it was the tallest and fastest hybrid coaster in the world. More importantly, it broke the record for the most airtime on a roller coaster with a mind-boggling 27.2 seconds. Steel Vengeance is easily the most aggressive airtime on any roller coaster I've ever been on. The roller coaster feels like it's trying its hardest to buck you off and make sure you don't come back into the station with it. Along with the powerful airtime on this roller coaster, it is filled with 4 incredible inversions. The first inversion you encounter is my favorite inversion of all time, with the smoothest heartline roll I've ever experienced. Steel Vengeance is still one of the longest roller coasters you can ride time-wise, with such an incredible pacing. Fitting in a third lap around the structure, the train then dives into the structure itself, adding head chopper and more inversions while surrounded by thousands of boards of wood holding the structure up. With the insane and wild ride this roller coaster brings, along with being situated along Lake Erie, this is the best roller coaster I've ever ridden. However, it is not my all-time favorite. More on that later. Coming in at number 4, we head over to my favorite Disneyland attraction, Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Forbidden Eye. The best attractions are the ones that can tell a story either with it directly or through the environment. Perfectly situated in Adventureland, the temple quickly starts to tell you its story. Easily the best queue of any attraction I've ever seen, with its interactivity and foreshadowing of the dangers you will find inside the temple. It is all leading up to the big climax deep in the temple. Once you board your Jeep, you are treated to one of the best dark rides on the planet. With spectacular projection effects starting off the attraction, you will see the face of Mara crumbling as someone in your group has set off the curse by looking into into her eyes. All hell breaks loose as you try to escape the temple with incredible lighting and fire effects. This is all leading up to an incredible climax where you finally meet up with Indy and you have to dodge the boulder that is rapidly rolling towards you. You manage to escape just in time and roll back into the station, completing your incredible but dangerous journey inside the temple. This attraction took so much creativity to pull off. It is truly impressive what Imagineers came up with all the way back in 1955. Every trip I take to Disneyland, Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Forbidden Eye is one I always flock to. Number 3 brings us to my all-time favorite roller coaster. We go back up to Cedar Point from Millennium Force. Remember how I said Steel Vengeance was the best roller coaster I've ever ridden, but not my favorite? This still holds true even though Millennium Force's layout is a little old-fashioned compared to the crazy roller coasters coming out today. However, Millennium Force was my holy grail for over a decade. Back when Millennium Force opened up in 2000, this is the first time I've ever heard of Cedar Point, but I knew how to get there one day. Over the next decade, Cedar Point kept adding more record-breaking roller coasters, making Cedar Point my mecca. Finally, in 2011, I was able to make my way out there, and Cedar Point and Millennium Force did not disappoint. While I stated that more crazy roller coasters have been built over the last 22 years, Millennium Force is no slouch when it comes to its layout and forces too. Standing in an insane 310 feet tall and traveling 93 miles an hour, Millennium Force blazes through its 6,595 feet of track. Staying low to the ground a good chunk of its layout, you truly feel the speed of this roller coaster. When Millennium Force does rise into the sky, you are greeted with some fantastic floater airtime moments. Millennium Force holds on to its speed until the final brake run, bringing this incredible ride to a close. Seeing this amazing blue roller coaster rise above the blue waters of Lake Erie is another reason why this roller coaster ranks so high for me. The setting really adds to the whole experience. Overall, while I expect to ride even better roller coasters in the coming years, it will be hard to dethrone Millennium Force as my all-time favorite. Number 2 brings us back to my favorite park at Walt Disney World, and Disney's response to Universal's Wizarding World of Harry Potter to bring an incredible dark ride of their own. The flagship attraction of this insanely detailed land, Pandora, the World of Avatar, is Flight of Passage. Before riding this attraction, I would be shocked to realize that the simulator would be my all-time favorite dark ride. It's the small little tricks and effects that make this ride feel so immersive and make you forget you're looking at a screen. Starting with the incredibly detailed queue, heading into the caves of Pandora, and then into the science lab where Imagineers use some incredible practical effects to make everything look like it's from another planet. Moving into the pre-show where you linked into your avatar, I am always amazed how similar my avatar looks to myself, especially considering there's about a dozen other people getting scanned as well. There is a metal wall directly in front of you hiding the screen, and once the attraction begins, lights flash in your eyes as you link to the avatar, hiding the metal wall moving in the process. This effect is mind-blowing the first time you ride Flight of Passage, as you likely did not see the metal wall move in front of you. You then start to fly with your Banshee around Pandora, feeling the Banshee breathe between your legs, adding to the immersion. Flying by Pandora's immersive landscape, you have the time of your life, feeling the wind in your hair and the mist of the waterfalls as you pass by. After an encounter with a much larger Banshee, you head into a cave to hide from the beast. Here's where Flight of Passage left me speechless. You rest and take in your surroundings as the cave lights up, then having James Horner's iconic score swell as you finish your flight. Flight of Passage makes you forget you're looking at a screen thanks to the incredible immersion. The first time I got off Flight of Passage, I was left speechless by what I had just witnessed. This attraction is always worth the long wait that it gathers, and is another piece of the puzzle on why Animal Kingdom is one of my all-time favorite parks. I do wonder if Flight of Passage will remain in the top of my favorite dark rides once I do ride Rise of Resistance next April. While roller coasters and dark rides thrill and excite every park I go to, a nighttime spectacular California Adventure takes my number 1 favorite attraction spot. World of Color is easily my favorite show I've ever seen. Back in 2010 when it debuted, I went in completely blind, having no idea what this show was, and was completely floored by how magnificent this nighttime spectacular is. The fountains are expertly choreographed with the immaculate soundtrack to make Paradise Bay come alive, combined with lasers and massive mist screens to immerse you in this incredible show. This is Disney using their IPs masterfully that make more recent shows like Enchantment seem to miss the mark. While the mist screens are used to help tell the story, they are just side actors to the main star of the show, which is the 1,200 individual fountains. Based on the original 1960s show of the same name, the original song is what brings this show alive. After the magnificent introduction of the dancing fountains, we now spend the next 21 minutes visiting our favorite Disney characters, featuring many jaw-dropping sequences with Part of Your World, Toy Story, Colors of the Wind, and Friend Like Me. Just if you've been mesmerized by these fountains, 2/3 of the way through the show, fire is brought onto the center stage for the immaculate Pirates of the Caribbean sequence. World of Color is masterfully paced between its high-energy sequences and its slower, more intimate moments in the show. We explode into the finale with the sensation overload in the best way possible. I cannot think of a better way to end your already masterpiece of a show. World of Color does seem to come and go as different versions take center stage, with a new version coming next year to help celebrate 100 years of Disney as a company. However, I can't express how much I love the original for the masterpiece that it is. World of Color is such a perfect way to end an excellent day at Disney California Adventure. Thank you for joining me rank my top 50 favorite attractions in the world. This list will be ever changing and with some fun trips planned for Universal, Busch Gardens Tampa, SeaWorld, and Disneyland to finally ride Rise of the Resistance. I am excited to see how some of these attractions might change up the ranking in the future. In the meantime, I hope this list helps you get through the winter where many of these amazing parks are closed for the season. See y'all in the spring for some new adventures. In the meantime, I'm gonna hit the slopes.